Hi, guys. It's me, Kurt Ranowski, publisher of Yankee T News, at it once again, waiting for Jason, waiting for Alan on this wonderful Saturday night, April 18th. And oh my goodness, the stuff that is going on in the Persian Gulf. Wow. And Iran and everything around. It's becoming quite the party. But anyway, my tag for tonight, my two hashtags are Iran is dying, Connecticut is dying, and Democrats are lost. But then again, if the Democrats were found, I'm not sure we'd be any better off. In fact, we might be even worse off. That's another discussion. All right, so I'm still waiting for them to sign in, and that's okay. So maybe I can kind of set this up for you. At least with the way I see it is Iran goes through these ebbs and flows, goes up and down, and the news cycle becomes more intense, then it kind of quiets down, and it becomes more intense again. We're coming to the end of where it was quieter. And I say that in spite of the stupid attacks by Iran. Let's see here. My friend Jason, what's going on with you, buddy? All right, Jason.
Hey, I've been on the phone. My phone's charging, but I'll be there in 3 minutes.
Okay, I got it under control. All right.
I bet you do. I'll see you in a minute.
Yes, okay. So, yeah, that's kind of how we have to play it sometimes. So that was my sidekick there, Jason. And Alan is still not checked in. Come on, Alan. Hey, come on. Yo. All right. Anyway, so here's the thing. All right, we're going to get into this again. To me, this is the highlight. This is the big moment. Part one. Okay, so the Iranians decided to have their own counter blockade, right, for the Strait of Hormuz. Now they get to decide who gets to come and who goes, as opposed to us. Now their techniques are a little different than ours, right? We give them warning, and then they usually listen. In their case, that would be the IRGC Navy. Well, it has a different name, though. It's more like this. Oh, hi, you're that tanker from India, right? And you just loaded up some of our oil and you're on your way to India? Yeah, fine. Go on through. Next thing you know, one of those little bug boats attacks them. So the captain on the tanker from India calls up and says, "What'd you just do? You just said I could go through, and now you attacked me. What's going on here?" Well, you think that the Iranians would step back for a minute and say, well, let's figure out what we did wrong and make sure this doesn't happen again. But no, this is the IRGC hard at work. So a second tanker comes along, also flagged for India, also carrying supposedly Iranian oil. And they did it again. They said, come on through. Only this time, they got attacked with a drone. One's a missile, the other's a drone, kind of the same problem. So should we be surprised, ladies and gentlemen? Should we be surprised that the ambassador for Iran, who's in India, gets a phone call? Okay? I want you to get over to our office right now. We have to have a conversation. All right, can we just conclude the obvious here? This is the most startling example of how no one's in control in Iran. And you want to know what the biggest problem is? Here's the thing to think about. The people who make up this power struggle, if you will, in the inner circle of whoever makes up the so-called leadership of Iran, they trust each other less than they trust the Americans. I like that so much, I got to say it again. They trust each other less than they trust the Americans. You saw it on display with the so-called peace talks. It ain't over. And if anything, it appears to have gotten worse in the reports that we're getting. and to have these two separate attacks, one by missile, one by drone, both Indian ships. That I don't understand. It could have been, I don't know, Swedish or whoever else, but they're both Indian. How does that happen? Oh, my. Okay. So, while that's going on, okay, let me just share with you this other. I'm a big fan, by the way, of Tausi TV. So I'm giving them a shout out. TOUSI.TV, Tausi TV. They always have the latest, the greatest, the best. You know, they are so far ahead of everybody else when it comes to the news. So I'm touting Tausi. There you go. They have clips. You're going to love this. They have clips on the street. Where are you, Alan? There you are. Okay. It's about ding dong time you got here, boy.
Yeah, having a little bit of a tech problem, but I'm going to get it straightened out here.
Okay. Okay, so I have been talking. You've probably heard about how it was not one but two Indian tankers that got attacked by Iran.
Yep.
Right. Brilliant.
All right, I'm going to step away for just a minute.
Sure. Okay. All right. I'll just wait for you here till you get back. Shouldn't be too long, right? It shouldn't be too long. So let me just, there are so many things to talk about with respect to Iran. And, ladies and gentlemen, the other hot item here is it has been strongly suggested that President Trump has no interest in extending the deadline. No interest. So either a decision has to be made like tomorrow or the day after, or there's going to be something else going on. All right. So on the subject of something else, Alan, have you seen the tracker graphics of the all the Air Force planes flying towards Iran?
No, I have not seen that yet.
Oh, there is a gigantic airlift going on of God knows what. It would be supplies, munitions, troops, equipment, you name it. It's a caravan in the sky, one after another of them. Okay. All right. Luc Famont. Yes, I don't think I'm going to be voting for Luc Famont anytime soon.
I don't think he's going to be the candidate.
Oh, really? Now there's a radical statement.
There's already a radical socialist challenger for him for the Democratic nomination.
Oh, yeah. What's that? He's a kid, though. He's just a kid. Look, let's be honest. If you're going to run for office in Connecticut, especially higher office, it is a rich man's game.
It is absolutely. But
yes,
the Democrats are the masters of the $5 donations.
That may well be true, but they don't have a $5 candidate.
No. Well, actually, I would argue that all their candidates are $5 candidates, but
okay.
I think Lamont is going to drop out because I think too many of the scandals are going to come home to roost.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And he's going to make way for the radical left-wing candidate. Okay. Proto's going to push Aaron Stewart, who's our leftist.
Yeah. All right, so we have a new addition here. All right, Jason.
The New Edition. Remember that band, The New Edition?
Oh, they were horrible.
Hoo-ya. That's some weird song that I used to like when I was a little boy.
Okay.
Cool it now. Won't you cool it now?
So anyway, we've already been live for about 9 minutes here. So
okay, we're going to go live on Facebook right now. We'll carry on.
Okay.
So here's my theory. He's going to drop out of the race. He's going to put the radical socialist up. That's going to make way for Proto's anointed one, our version of a leftist, Aaron Stewart.
Yeah.
And either she wins and goes complete and holds things at the status quo.
Yeah.
Or the radical socialist wins and we have to deal with our own version of Mondami.
Yeah.
Okay, we're here.
All right, so we got that going
on Facebook, and yes, I'm glad we're talking about Connecticut because there's a lot to talk about in terms of the gubernatorial race.
Also, the stuff with Iran, which we have to come back around on. Come back around. Yes, I said it. Come back around.
Come back around.
So I see. Speaking of Iran, that our whole we're going to control the Straits of Hormuz that lasted 10 minutes.
Yeah, so last night I went to bed thinking everything was under control, everything was wonderful. I woke up this morning, I see on the headline, Iran now controls the Strait of Hormuz, and all I could do was let my jaw drop to my chin and just kind of like walk away. Because what happened? Did they defeat us in a battle?
No,
No, they
What
just showed
happened?
up.
They showed up.
you're giving the liberal media, you're giving the liberal pro-Iran media too much credit.
So this is BS.
All right, we have to understand, let's put this in context here. What Iran is rolling out, okay, is the ability to send some drones, and they have some of those, what I call bug boats, okay? And yes, they can launch missiles off of those bug boats.
Yeah, we talked about that a few weeks ago.
Okay, so the point is that Iran has a lower bar to cross over in order to affect change in the strait. Okay,
Mhm.
we have to have a whole blockade. They just send out a couple of jerks who can fire off missiles and drones and cause problems. Okay, that's all they have to do.
Well, then on Wednesday it's bombs away. Then
Yeah, it'll be
that's
interesting.
simple.
Okay, well, and so you say this. So let me get, all right, I don't want to, let's stay on this, but I just need to get this off my chest. It's another example. This is like, okay, I can't believe this. All right, again, for your benefit, it's a shout out to Tausi TV, TOUSI.TV. They show video clips of these so-called pro-IRGC demonstrators out in the streets of Tehran getting paid.
Really?
Yep,
George Soros is in Iran.
that's right. So they're passing the money out right there in the street, right in front of them.
Well, in
They're
some of
out.
these countries, they can pay you with a bag of rice or a piece of meat.
Well,
Yeah.
we know how good their
Ground beef.
currency is, but they're taking it and they're staying there to protest. Now, here's the other kick in the pants. Not only are those Iranians out in the streets protesting, but they are mercenaries. Those folks we were talking about who are from Afghanistan, Iraq.
Pakistan.
Yeah.
Turkey.
Yeah. So all these guys who are not Iranian, who are willing to show up, and then they get paid a few bucks, and they'll stand out in the street there and scream wonderful things about the Ayatollah. And it's been pointed out that it's been a month since the Ayatollah said anything. We haven't heard from the old buzzard because now
Probably dead.
he's actually dead.
I'm sure he's dead.
Mhm.
So
Yeah. They keep changing their mind.
I can't believe they have the chutzpah to go out and do what they're doing right now. I mean, I don't think it's going to sit well for them, really. I think this is it's incredible.
Yeah.
So
So
obviously,
the
the leadership picture in Iran right now is completely muddled.
I want to take what you just said, Jason, and freeze frame it. Okay, put lights around it. The IRGC, or let's just say in this case, the Iranian Navy, has not been put under pressure. They haven't been challenged. Okay.
I thought they're at the bottom of the sea.
No. The ones that are still around, that are out, the ones that they haven't been challenged.
They've been docked. They've been docked.
There's been no pushback against
Right.
them. Okay. Oh, there will be.
There will be. You better believe it.
Give it a little time. Okay. So in
What's
one
wrong what they have at us? I don't think we should be surprised. But the headline on Fox News this morning was misleading, is what you're telling me.
Okay, yes, there's more to the story. Are you ready for this?
Mm-hmm.
4 cruise ships hugging the coastline of Oman got in and out of the Persian Gulf unchallenged.
Cruise ships,
Cruise ships.
like shuffleboard and
Yeah.
late night dinners. Okay,
Okay.
making sure we have the right
A lot
idea.
of those. All right. But in the meantime, you've also had ships that have been turned back, right, by both America and Iran. Okay. So you have that going on. But the other part that really gets me is that the rapidly shifting versions of what's happening with mining the straits. Okay. Version 1 was, yep, here they come. The Iranians are laying all kinds of mines. They might still have a submarine or two that can do it. They can't even keep track of the mines that they're laying, blah, blah, blah. Then you have reports that say, nah, it doesn't look like they did it so much. And then you have reports about how America's out there looking for the mines. And now you ready for the other report?
I'm ready.
The Iranians and the Americans are working together to get rid of the mines. What?
Actually that makes sense to me when you look at how muddled the leadership
that's exactly
situation in Iran really is. There's probably 2 or 3 different factions right now that are claiming to be the leaders of Iran, including the old mullahs, including the more democratic versions. They're all out there now.
Well, there are no democratic versions. There's only
more reasonable, I guess, the more reasonable version of our.
Well, all right. The people you and I would call reasonable are the people who are, in the eyes of others, mere appeasers, and they might as well be called traitors.
Oh, in the eyes of the IRGC supporters, of course.
Yes, exactly.
Well, that's the makings of a civil struggle in Iran that I think that will probably extend. But there's got to be. We could probably compartmentalize that when our involvement militarily ends.
Who's going to compartmentalize what?
We can say that there's a point in time when our role militarily ends and politically begins, and that doesn't necessarily mean the end for Iran. There's probably going to be a civil struggle there.
A civil struggle.
Yeah, unless we can wipe out the IRGC completely with our military, which I don't see that happening. We've already discussed they have too many things, too many places to hide. Too many. They've been preparing for this for 50 years. They're not going to just go away unless their own people take them down. Really, at the end of the day, that's what I'm getting at.
Right now,
we may be able to reduce them as a threat to us, but to me, another thing I keep asking is, if we're going to make a deal, what about the people of Iran? What about them? We're leaving them behind? I mean,
are we leaving them behind?
Well, we just promised them a few weeks ago that wait until we give the signal, you come out, and now we want to make a deal.
Wait, who's going to make a deal? What deal?
Well, Trump keeps saying we're so close to making a deal with Iran. We're so close. So let's just say that he's right. We do make a deal. What kind of that deal? Who is that deal with? Is really the question that needs to be asked. And I asked it the other day too. I'm going to ask it again. And really that question is going to be answered in Iran with their civil struggle, and of course I'm sure we have our special forces and CIA in there, hopefully. Helping things along in the right direction. But the bottom line is we're not going to see massive ground troops in Iran. I don't see that happening.
Well, the argument's going to be we don't need them.
We don't.
So, but now there's another little change in the wind here with Israel suggesting that they might send some of their troops to Iran. Previously, they said we're too busy. We're all tied up in Lebanon. But now they're saying, they're
not so tied up in Lebanon anymore, so that also makes sense.
Yeah, so it's root and branch. I mean, root and branch here, guys. If you're focusing on Hezbollah, that's kind of like cutting at the branches. If you deal with the problems in Iran, you're getting at the root. Okay, and so yes, they should be making, in my opinion, a more considered play. All right.
Yeah, I think that there's a big picture here thing going on here.
Oh, a big picture thing?
Yeah, I'm gonna give you a big picture thing. Oh, okay. How many nations do we have in the general area? About 12. We got Jordan. We got. I'm just gonna throw a number out there. 12. How many nations in the Middle East? Like 14, 12. If you go to Jordan, Lebanon, Israel, UAE, Qatar, there's about 12 or so.
Okay.
All right. So the bottom line is, Iran has not been a good neighbor, and we can't accept bad neighbors anymore. So the objective of this struggle,
but they
no more bad neighbor.
Well.
That's it, and then that is the one.
The problem with that is
it has to happen in this war.
Hold on. The problem with that is you're speaking from a Western perspective. Okay, I've made this point before.
The sentiment for that is growing, I think, too. The Abraham Accords, whatnot.
The Western perspective is when we look at each other, we expect to trust each other and work with each other on the basis of trust. In the Mideast, they do not, okay? They look at every opportunity they can to screw the other guy.
Yeah, but we don't even trust our own government.
Know about each other, all right? So there's no deceit about trusting each other like we would.
But I didn't say anything about trusting each other. I just said
but that's
fine. How about just not attacking each other and proxying terrorism and things like that? You don't have to trust somebody to avoid blowing them up. Okay, so we're talking about being a good neighbor and living in peace. If you want to put up barriers and you don't trust people, fine.
All right. Well, this becomes an interesting
But barriers work around Democrat houses.
question. Yes, right.
Well, that's like Court said, that's how they are in the Middle East. So if they want to put up big walls and not trust each other, that's fine. But stop proxying terrorism. And most of all, this whole mission of destroying the Western world, we got to snuff that right out. I mean, I know it's just, you can't have that. Like I said the other day, the Muslim movement altogether is pretty much.
Well, there's
nobody speaking up in the Muslim world saying this is wrong. We don't want this jihad. I don't hear anybody. Not one.
Right. Because they
are. It's a part of God's will for them, and they're Allah's will from their perspective, whether they're participating in it or not.
All right. Well, I mean, to me, again, this is just an extension of the same point we've raised before, which is that this is just an extension of a holy war.
That's right, and that's why it's
been going on since the Crusades, and nothing's changed.
That's correct. That whole area of the world, starting in Eastern Europe, like you mentioned yesterday, and the middle, and that extends through the Middle East.
Right.
So,
but we do need, but we do the things we do, but we need more spies. And you know who I think would make a great spy? We just got to dress him up right, and he'll look just like a Saudi Arabian.
Joe Mackey from Gutfeld Show.
Be Alan right there, Alan. All you gotta do is put one of those.
Alan, yeah, you could do it.
Claws on top of his head with a little round thingy.
I've always said that one of the places in the world I want to see the most. I've been in all 50 states.
Yeah.
And I spent the night in 37. But one of the places in the world I want to go to the most would be see the pyramids.
Okay.
And I would not go, since the Arab Spring down there, like I would not feel comfortable going to see the pyramids unless I had a turban and some good tan and some facial hair, Well, I would go Indiana Jones all the way. Like I would not show up with
and you have
as
to
an
have
American tourist, no way.
Basic Muslim greetings down. Salam alaikum, or whatever it is they say.
Well, of course, the interesting thing about the pyramids is that the current regime in Egypt does not like the pyramids. They actually had a plan to blow them up.
Oh, yeah. God.
Because somebody went to them and said, "You realize that all your money, all your economy is tourism."
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
Imagine that's insane.
But they live in a damn desert. That place, you're right. That's their economy. Man, if anything ever happened to the pyramids, man, that would really suck.
Right. Well, speaking of that, there's a rumor that there's going to be a huge revelation about the pyramids by the end of this year.
Yeah. Okay.
About
really?
Again.
Yeah.
Again, tell me the aliens built them now.
I know something. I can't tell you. I know it. It's going to be big. It's going to be huge. It's going to be super. Can't say it. But don't worry. I'm going to say it soon. It's coming.
I'll make it.
Wait.
All right. And hey, do we have any Edgar Casey fans here? Anybody ever heard of Edgar Casey?
Of course.
Yes. And you know that he had predicted that it will be disclosed that below the Sphinx there's this big hall of knowledge of all these records that no one knew about. All right.
Kind of like the one we have on top of Mount Rushmore.
But we should shift gears and talk about Connecticut.
2. Okay. Or is that 3? I forget. Yeah.
Let's not forget that the Mount Rushmore, built by Stamford's own Gutzon Borglum.
Wait, are you telling me he was from Stamford?
Yes, or his studio was there.
What? Okay.
Monday night, we'll be having dinner not too far from his studio.
Does that studio still exist?
I don't know if it does, but I know the property does. It's off Wire Mill Road on the aptly named Studio Road.
There's a lot of studio space in Stamford, right? There's a lot of TV that goes on there, a lot of studio space.
But this was a sculptor's studio.
Right.
Okay.
So you go down Wire Mill Road from High Ridge, and you on the right, you will find Studio Road.
Studio Road.
You will also find Gutzon Borglum Road.
Off of Studio Road.
They're both off Wire Mill. And the Stamford Museum has one of the small copies of Mount Rushmore that was one of the ones he worked from.
Wow. Oh, my goodness. Okay. So is his house a museum?
No.
No?
If his house is still standing, it's just a privately owned house.
You know, I was going to make a sick joke about one of our previous mayors of Stanford who hates history.
How do you hate history?
Oh, it's easy.
I know, because
What was his name?
most
Miller?
students in school did not like history. I was one of the few.
What was the name of that mayor, Alan? Before Carol Simmons?
David Martin.
Yeah, David Martin. Oh my God.
Yes, he. When I was up for a position on the Historical Preservation Advisory Commission,
Right.
his only question he wanted me, and he looked at me and said, "I know you who you are. You're a low tax Republican. You're a Tea Partier. So I just have one question: how much are you willing to raise taxes to preserve history?"
Wise guy. Okay, and why would we have to raise taxes to preserve history?
Well,
What to pay
you
you
wouldn't.
off so you wouldn't destroy it?
well, the funny thing is that commission is first of all an advisory commission, so they have no teeth.
Yeah, I know. The whole historical preservation thing with Stanford is a mess.
Well, it is, but this was actually a positive move. This commission, but it just has no authority.
Yeah.
So
well,
when you put in, let's say you want to build a deck off the back of your house,
yeah,
but there's a well there that's old. The Historical Preservation Advisory Committee has to give an advisory opinion to zoning and planning and zoning, saying yes, they can cover up this well, or no, they can't.
You see, you don't really own your own house.
Well, as I said to him, I said, well, you know, the chances of a random well in somebody's backyard actually being historically significant, slim to none. If you can't tell me that George Washington drank out of that well, then it's your well. Do with it what you want to do.
God, that's
there's historic
your
buildings
house,
all
it's your
over this
yard.
area. This is New England.
It's your well. You bought it. It's your well.
I mean, look, this is
wrong with
New England. We have history all over the place. You can't walk
Right.
through the woods without finding a tree that Abraham Lincoln passed by.
well, can we call it one of a kind history?
Yeah.
Okay, so I mean that's got to count for something. You know, for what it's worth, in Greenwich, there's the Second Congregational Church, and if you stand at the entrance there, it has a plaque about how George Washington stood there and looked out on Long Island Sound and thought, "Wow, this is great." And for
George
that,
Washington took a beating on Long Island in the beginning of the war.
Yep.
yeah,
He made some tactical mistakes, but he learned from them.
tactical. How about strategic?
Mhm.
In
Well,
Norwalk, there's
It wasn't entirely his fault. It was that
No,
poor
no.
little farmer who gave up the secrets. Remember him?
in Norwalk, there's a plaque on a rock in the middle of downtown Norwalk on the
Yes.
Norwalk River that said this is the spot where Nathan Hale left for his fatal mission to New York as a spy.
There you go.
So you might
Something
argue that
to remember.
it's a good thing that it's what happened in New York with Washington and his troops. It might be a good thing because that set the stage for what happened later, really. So let's say they had done well there and seized New York, that the entire British fleet would have surrounded him. It would have been.
Well, I'll give you another one. How about the Bushnell bomb? The first
Oh
submarine.
yeah,
Oh, the turtle.
The turtle, yes, the Bushnell turtle. You know, there's the part where Congress, the Continental Congress, was presented with these plans and a request for money. They didn't get it, and they didn't give him any money. So he's still left on his own. And we know that it didn't work out so well, but if they had understood it, oh boy, would the history of the Revolutionary War changed.
So can we get in the time machine and get back into the present? I'd like to shift gears and talk about Connecticut,
Yeah, which part?
the governor's race.
Oh, that's a setup if there ever was one.
Oh yeah, I've set it up for the old Longhorn here.
All right. So are you in on this, Alan?
Oh,
I'm not in on it, but I would like to hear.
Okay. So here's the story. I can't remember what I said yesterday. I think I gave you guys a taste of this yesterday, where Ben Proto, the traitor, the mole, the insider from the left, who's infiltrated our thing, has suggested that no debate. Let's have a debate about debates, gentlemen.
Yeah.
The
Okay.
debate
Okay.
does not take place. This is Proto's directive to the committee and to the people that he runs as the chairman, and to the candidates, by the way, not to have a debate before the convention, which is, by the way, May 15th.
And what's his rationale for no debate?
Good question.
I've got my theories.
Okay.
Well, he's a traitor. That's the reason. But
Yeah,
his
okay,
reason-
we know that.
the reason that he's giving them is that it's the same thing I hear from people like Pam Salamone and committee members that I ran against last year. Same mantra that we've got to stay united, and then set our sights on Lamont. So Proto's official position, not his real one, but his official one is we got to all band together and not fight each other, pick our person, and just do our primary, and then spend all resources fighting against Lamont, right? Debating him, right? That's his bullshit reason, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Now I say to you this. What if the national presidential election cycle went that way? What if back in 2015, the Republicans had said, the hell with the primary, the hell with the debate. Let's just get Jeb Bush in there and just do this, right? Does that sound like democracy? There are people on social media I've been arguing this point with Ben. They're either hacks or they're just ignorant.
Mm-hmm.
People don't understand.
Well,
Doesn't it make sense to have a debate before you have a vote?
You left out Trader.
I bring it up all the time that we're the party that is supposed to, or all the time champions free and fair elections, unless it's our own party election.
Mm-hmm.
And then we want to make some backroom deal where it's, well, Jason, you're a good guy and I'm a good guy, but let's just make Court the chair.
Yeah. Let's just do it. Just handpick.
Right. No, we don't actually need to have votes.
There are people on social media. I've been actually I had the day off today. I've been kind of hanging around home, not doing some personal things, catch up. And I was jamming around on Facebook about this issue and just going back and forth with people. People that I think are actually pretty good-hearted people that actually believe this is the way to go, that we should just save our resources for fighting Proto, blah, blah, blah. Again, imagine if they had done that in the presidential level.
Fighting Proto. You mean fighting Lamont. But that's okay.
We can all unite and fight Lamont once we pick the right candidate, which is, by the way, Betsy.
Well,
So
here's
anyway,
the other thing.
Go ahead.
Now we have 3 candidates for the Republican nomination for governor.
That's right. Betsy, Ryan, and Aaron.
Right. Now, regardless of where you stand on any of those 3, we don't have unity yet because we have 3 people that all say I should be the candidate.
Right.
The only way to make an informed decision is to listen to them debate.
Right. To talk with us, not at us.
Right. I mean, I will tell you right now, I've asked a question online of Betsy, and I'm not happy with her answer.
Mm-hmm.
And I still think she's probably edging out the other 2 a little bit, but she keeps talking about how she is going to repeal the income tax.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked, how are you going to do that? Because that's a legislative act.
Mm-hmm.
So are you going to hold all 100 and some odd seats in the legislature in addition to the governorship?
Yeah,
How are you going to get past? How are you going to get past the supermajority? And her only answer, which took her about a week to post on social media, was, "Well, I have big coattails. If everybody gets on board with me, we'll have the majority."
Right. So I asked her that same question in person, actually, when I saw her in what was that? What town were you in there? Brantford or Guilford? Was Guilford she showed up at? I asked her that question, and she basically said that her campaign is intended to ultimately, if it gets momentum, to help with other to promote the other people running and try to. I think she acknowledged that. Obviously, it's hard to do anything without a majority, Well,
right, but what I'm thinking, and I don't want to pick on her unreasonably, but this is a sign of a problem we have in this country and in this state, where we've simply stopped teaching about the 3-ring circus that is our government.
Oh, I know.
We don't teach civics. No one knows No one knows what the courts are supposed to do, what the legislature is supposed to do, what the executive is supposed to do.
That's right.
So we have people running for office that are looking for an imperial presidency.
Right.
That's correct.
Well,
so good news here is we're going around Ben Proto. Selena Rifkin and I, I'm a host of my other show, Connecticut Common Sense, came up with an idea, and we started making calls, and we now have the CTRA chapter ready to sponsor a debate. We now have the Cadillac Ranch in Southington, who has opened up their door anytime, any place for a debate. Not only that, we also have, obviously, Betsy is 100% on board. I've been in touch with her and her campaign manager, and they're wide open to it. They're the ones that she was with us in the show when we hatched the idea. More recently, I've been reaching out to Fazio. It's funny. This is kind of a cool story. Now, I met him in Coventry a couple weeks ago. I came up to him, shook his hand, he said hello. And I reached out to him on Facebook, on his personal Facebook direct message, to ask him about this debate. And he didn't answer me. And I thought to myself, this guy's not going to answer me. And then he's online talking about how he's been online saying he wants to have a debate before the convention, which is of check in his favor, right? So I figured, given that, it should be easy. He's not answering me. So I'm thinking to myself, I'm thinking, why is he? But I think he probably met 100 people that day. He meets 100 people every day. So he's not going to remember me, you know?
Right.
So I write back. I say, I'm the guy that looked kind of scuzzy with the bright green phone. And he went, oh, Jason, hello. Jason, that's you. How you doing? I said, good. I said, and I said, I told him what I was doing. And he said, oh, great. He said, he gave me an email address of his girl, Pam, something, whatever. He said, here's the one to email. I'm down. So that's the more recent development. Ryan Fazio is down. He's going to do it. So that leaves only Aaron. Now that we have two, by the way, we're going to do this event.
Mm-hmm.
The date range is between April 25th and May 12th. The latest could possibly be would be May 12th. The earliest could be, logistically, I think, would be the 25th of April. I don't think we can have it tomorrow or the next day.
No.
So now the third candidate, Aaron. Now, Aaron and I have talked on direct message on Facebook, on and off, a little here and there for the last year or so. I'd criticize her. I'd get on there. I wanted her to come on our podcast with Selena last year. So I was direct messaging her about that.
Mm-hmm.
And she talked back to me and asked me about the format. I told her it was pretty much hers. And she said, let me get, here's the person to talk to. We'll make an arrangement. And then she kind of ghosted me. So then I went back to her, why you ghosted me? And then I criticized her a couple more times. Then I went on Facebook one day, and it wasn't why you hate me. I read it again. It was what is it that what's your problem with me? Why do you have a problem with me? She's kind of whining. I was like, I don't have a problem with you, but I think, you got to show, you got to, talk to, answer questions. All she does is do her commercials, and she has her little live casts and her little speeches. She's not answering to anybody, right?
No.
So
I told her not to. So
she goes to me again. So finally, when this debate thing came up more recently, I've been on there playing with her head pretty much. And I know she's reading them because her little picture shows up on the thing. I told her, I said, Aaron, if other people are telling you not to debate, then don't listen to them. And if your own head is telling you not to debate, then you need to examine that. And I said, honestly, Aaron, if you're not going to debate, there's only two reasons why. One, you're disingenuous. Or two, you just don't think you can win the debate. You don't have the points to make. And in either case, you shouldn't be governor. I said, but I believe in you, Aaron. I said, I think you could be a good governor. I said, potentially, but you got to show us how. I said, come to the debate. Don't make the mistake of not going. I said, I'm really sorry, Aaron. I said, but if you don't answer and you don't make an arrangement and don't go, I said, I'm going to have to put a tremendous amount of public pressure on you. I said, because it doesn't make any sense not to debate. And I gave her my analogy about Trump. What if they just give it to Jeb Bush in a back room and not let the debate happen?
Mm-hmm.
So she did write back at one point during there's a bunch more I could say. I forget everything I said. She wrote back and said, here's the number to call. So she responded.
Okay.
Great. She's going to do it. I call the number. It's a goddamn canned. It's like the public phone, So I left a long voicemail on it. It's for anybody to call. It wasn't like she gave me some point of contact. It was just her campaign hotline or whatever. And I called it with a detailed message, very detailed. And then nobody called back. So I got to her today and I gave her a few more little jabs and then so you got the cardboard. If she doesn't show up, we're gonna do a cardboard cutout of her or put it in the chair.
Right. So I got a decision to make. Should the cardboard cutout be full size or a midget?
Full size.
Okay, full size.
Got to go full size, standing behind a podium.
She stands about 5'2".
Right. Mm-hmm.
5'3" maybe. I wouldn't make her too big. Wouldn't want to insult her,
Yeah, that's right.
Careful there,
Yeah. She is.
Aaron seems like I don't think Aaron's a bad person. I really don't. I just think that she's caught up in the nepotism and the system, and she's no different than.
It is, but I mean, she's spent too much time learning how to be a good rhino, to be anything other than a good rhino.
And there is, by the way, there's a picture of her smiling and standing next to Barack Obama in her mayoral office in New Britain, or there was at least. I don't think she's married. So, there's that.
So if we could find that picture, could we make the cardboard cutout of that picture?
Oh, that'd be awesome if we could find that picture. There probably is online somewhere. She's done interviews in their office before. I could just
If we
darn
could
well
find a
go
good
there.
enough quality picture, have the cardboard cutout of her and Obama together at the podium.
Yeah, that'd be great. So if she doesn't show up, I think her campaign's going to be doomed.
Well, here's the interesting thing too, but this is my theory. I have no actual information. This is just the way the gears in my mind are rotating around. I think she may have been told not to debate because I suspect that because she was the first of the candidates to declare
Yeah,
or to
long time ago.
explore. But I think that she was probably promised the nomination as long as she didn't do anything controversial. And I
Right.
think
rock
almost from
and
day
roll.
one, at least a faction of State Central, if not the entire committee, set about trying to get her delegate commitments prior to anyone else even running.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen it before.
Right, because they want to do one of what you mentioned earlier, one of their closed door behind the scenes, just anoint Aaron, and that's it.
I was a delegate to the state convention once, and I tell people all the time I will never go back into that den of vipers again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was all arm twisted, right?
Not only was there arm twisting, but the deals were just distasteful, and even the convention rules. Like, I'll give you an idea. There's a spot where you go, okay, who votes for candidate A, and some different delegations go up and say we put 10 votes for delegate A and 2 votes for delegate B. Okay, the next town comes up. And then once they get those tallies and they put them up and say, okay, candidate C is the winner. Does anyone want to change their votes now?
Mm-hmm.
And about half the delegations go up and change their votes. And all of a
That's
sudden,
insane.
candidate C isn't the winner. Candidate B is the winner. And then everybody goes up to C and says, I supported you, but the votes just weren't there. And then they go to B and say, I've been supporting you. Then they go to candidate B and go, I've been supporting you from the start. You're my guy.
That's sad.
Yeah, no, it is. It's worse than sad. It's not. I mean, that has nothing to do with democracy.
And one of the ways to
And
get
let's
away
not
with
even
that.
start about the fact that was actually the year that it was Tom Foley and Mark Boughton were the 2 front runners.
Yep.
And then this young kind of upstart of a state senator, John McKinney, was also trying to run, and he did not have a lot of delegates.
Mm-hmm.
And
How do they get away with that, though?
Well, because Foley was the clear winner.
No, they do it by not having debates. That's one of the ways.
Here's
they
the
do
other
it.
thing. Well, here's the other thing that happens. They sell their delegates to each other into smaller races. So let's say you have a guy who's running for lieutenant governor. You're not really into a governor's race, but you're a solid guy for, say, Matt Corey. Well, they go to Matt and say, Matt, if you give me all your delegates, I'll put all of my delegates behind you.
Back deals.
And then when they realize in this case, the only 2 that qualified for a primary were Foley and Boughton.
Mm-hmm.
There were about 6 names that went up there. Joe Visconti ran. He didn't do well, but he got a few votes. And all of a sudden they go, well, let's call for a recess. And Foley's people come around, and they came to our delegation, which was the biggest in the state, or the second biggest in the state. And they go, we need you to change your votes for McKinney. We don't need that many votes. We've already won, but we want a 3-way primary because McKinney has promised that if he gets the state funding, he'll use it to run attack ads against Malloy. So they make a deal. All the Stanford people, most of the Stanford people, I'm the only one that did not change my vote, but I had voted for Joe Visconti.
Mm-hmm.
And I got into a screaming match with other delegates over why I wouldn't support McKinney.
Mm.
Court remembers my poster that said, if it looks like a rhino and walks like a rhino, it must be John McKinney.
Yes.
Right. There you go.
We stood outside the Owl Cigar Shop in New Haven that night.
Oh yeah, that's right. I remember that.
So when that 3-way race now pops up, and now they have a 3-way primary, you know what McKinney did? He got that state money. And you know what he used that state money for? Do you think he attacked Malloy at all? Nope.
Of course.
He ran attack ads against Boughton and Foley. And when all was said and done, Foley was the winner. And you know what? All of Malloy's attack ads were essentially copies of McKinney's ads. Because
And,
McKinney dug up all the dirt on the Republican.
And
There's
it
an
was
element of
Democrats as well.
there's an element of brainwashing going on here.
Mhm.
These people are otherwise smart people. I mean, it's just the same thing with the debates I was having about the debate on Facebook earlier today. We have people that I looked at their profiles. They're pretty prominent people arguing that we shouldn't have a debate.
Yeah.
I mean, what? Are you brainwashed? Are you understanding this? And their points they were making were so incoherent.
Mhm.
Well, and here's the real reason I think they don't want to debate. Let's say it's the three of us debating.
Mhm.
And when all's said and done, Jason, you win the debate. Everybody says Jason is the clear winner of this
Every
debate.
time. No, I'm kidding.
Now we go to the convention, and I end up winning the most delegates.
Yeah.
So I get the nomination.
Mm-hmm.
They're afraid that now they've actually allowed their weakest candidate to go up.
Right. And people see that. That's the thing. The people will see that. That's what
But
it's
I
about.
look at
About
it and
being
say,
exposed
wait a
to the
minute, if
public.
Jason wins the debate,
Right.
maybe some delegates look at that and go, hey, wait a minute, I was going to support Alan, but you know what? I got to throw my weight behind Jason because he's the clear winner.
Mm-hmm.
I think it helps us.
Exposes a debate is the biggest for this like behind closed door scene crap where Aaron's the anointed one. The debate jeopardizes that because
Right.
if you humiliate yourself in the debate, then you're right. If they go through there, they're going to look really bad to the public, and if they don't, then they lose her. So it's a lose-lose for corruption.
And think about this.
Mhm.
Okay, Betsy, having served as lieutenant governor of New York, she's been through debates. It was a while ago, but she's been through debates. She should do pretty well in the debate. Ryan, as a sitting legislator, his whole political job is about debating on the
Mhm.
floor.
Mhm.
He's probably going to do very well in the debate.
That's right.
It's where his skill set lies.
I don't know if I've ever seen Aaron in a debate before.
If she has, she's only had to debate,
Mayoral, maybe at the local level.
right, on a mayor's race where you've got moderate Democrat against Rhino.
Right.
Mhm.
They're basically just deciding how much you're going to raise taxes by. But they both agree on raising taxes. So,
Yeah.
Well, I think that the key is to get enough public momentum behind this thing at the Cadillac Ranch, and we're doing that. I'm going to be on Rocky's show on Saturday, the radio, to get the people to put pressure on the committee and get people to call up and
Mhm.
this. I mean, like I said, there's some people on the committee I think are actually pretty reasonable people that actually believe. I think you're right. I think the leaders, that's why they don't want to debate. But some of the rank and file people or regular public people that argue for it are just thinking that the line I get the most. We just got to stay united so we can fight Lamont, and that's what they're thinking. And it's nice sentiment, but unfortunately, we're infested with rhinos. Even if we had a clean party, we still want to debate ideas. That's the whole idea behind democracy.
right. Look,
And then
when you were
rhino
talking about that
factor into
first
it,
year,
you get
when you were talking about that first year with Jeb Bush and and if you remember, that was the one where we started off debate season with 17 Republican candidates.
yeah, there was a whole room full of them that first debate.
And so they were doing a tier 1 and a tier 2 debate.
Mhm.
And they based it on where you were in the polls. And the problem was you had Mitt Romney, who barely broke, I think he got 27% of the vote. And that might have been the year before.
That's
It was right after Bush.
That was in 2012.
You're right. But the 2012, Mitt Romney got 27% of the vote. And I remember seeing one of the big pundits say, yeah, he was the front runner of a group of 17, but that meant that close to 3/4 of all the Republicans wanted somebody other than him. They just couldn't agree on who that other person was.
Right.
Our front runner was pulling 1/4 of the votes.
Yeah.
That's not a good system, but that tier 1, tier 2, if you remember, so Jeb Bush, and again, I'm going to use Jeb Bush because on paper, he was a good candidate. Governor of a state that's a mostly conservative state. He'd been reelected, so obviously the voters in Florida liked him. He had the name recognition, mostly because of his dad and his brother, but he had the Bush name.
Yeah.
On paper, he should have performed way better than he did. So
that was the Trump factor there.
Right. I've kind of looked at that and said, why didn't he? Why wasn't Jeb Bush a better candidate?
DJT.
When you see him talk, he's a personable guy. He doesn't fall all over himself. I think what it is there were just so many people that nobody was pulling a big percentage.
Yeah,
So
not
one
only
of the
that, but people were fed up by then too.
Right. But one of the things I said was maybe the debate should not have been a tier 1 or a tier 2. It should have been some kind of round robin where the first question goes to the first 3 and the next question goes to the next 3. And because you know what will be really interesting? And I think we would have had Trump 4 years before we did. If Trump had been able to talk against a Jeb Bush, against a Cardi Fiorina.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, your idea, Alan, would have been very good in the last, 1 or 2 election cycles when we had how many? 12 or 16 Republicans running for governor in Connecticut.
yeah.
I just remember when Bush said, at one point, Bush said something to Trump. I mean, Jeb Bush said something to Trump to kind of put him down during the debate. Trump looked at him and said, "What are you talking about, Jeb? You're at 3%."
Yep.
And that was the end of the Bush dynasty right there.
You're right.
That was
It
the end
was.
of it. The whole family. That's
But
it.
But again, on paper, there's no reason he should have been at 3%. It doesn't make any sense.
Well, I think, I'm going to say it does make sense.
There was a lot. Yeah, I would agree with Court. There's a lot of hatred of the establishment at the time.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was I mean, President Trump was setting the tone, setting the narrative, and really shaping everybody's thinking. And under those circumstances, we should not be surprised
Yep.
that Jeb Bush was at 3%. Should not be surprised.
Because there's a tremendous populist movement.
Okay, how about this surprise? For the debate, after all is said and done, then we take a vote, a paper vote, at the end to decide who won the debate.
Yeah, that's a good idea. And I think we should do the trivia questions too. I think
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right.
That's the fourth format. Yeah, just like pick like 4 good ones. It doesn't mean 4 or 5 good ones. Ask each candidate, and then you don't want to make the questions too hard because we don't want to humiliate them. Like with hard questions that you would expect at least 3/4 of the people to know if they live in Connecticut, if they're loyal to Connecticut, that you would think they would know. Like something not too easy, but not too hard.
Alan, for questions to ask.
I can come up with
Sure.
stuff.
I can think of a couple, but you got to tell me which area we want to go in. Do we want to go historical? Do we want to go more modern?
I think we're going to come up with like 4 or 5 questions. So you just do one for history, one for economics, one for,
Okay.
one for geography even.
All right. And then there are questions that would be factual or questions that would be, what's your opinion?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean,
that's the third part. That's the Q&A format.
Well, think about this. The bulk of the debate is going to be what's your opinion. Somebody's going to say, what do you think about the public benefit?
Mm-hmm.
Ryan's obviously going to come out against it. Betsy's probably going to come out against it.
Mm-hmm.
But when we're talking trivia, I can think of a couple of things.
Yeah.
What famous toy was invented in Connecticut? The Frisbee.
Mm-hmm.
Well, not only that, but the wiffle ball.
Okay.
Ball, yeah.
So we could go with what famous candy was invented here. Actually, there's 2 of them I can think of: the lollipop and the lifesaver.
Yep.
A lollipop was invented in Connecticut?
Yep. Invented in, I believe, New Haven.
What?
I thought that was from Europe.
Okay.
Maybe not.
But we can think of these things. What river in Connecticut do we pronounce different than it's pronounced in the country where the river it was named after is from?
Okay. No one's going to get that one.
I know they're not.
Yeah.
And it's a cumbersome way to word it, but England has the Thames and we have the Thames.
Oh, is that how we say it?
Yes. That's why I remember it. In Connecticut, it's the Thames River.
All right. Okay.
We could ask him, can you name off the top of your head 2 or 3 of the top 3 employers in Connecticut other than the state?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be an excellent one.
That's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we're definitely a lot of logistics to work out, and but I think the willingness is all on board for everybody. So as long as that goes smoothly, I think we're going to see at least 2 of the 3 candidates there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Erin's got to be having she's got to be up at night a little bit now.
Oh, you ain't seen nothing yet.
She hasn't seen nothing yet. That's right.
Yeah. By the time we get to the debate, she'll look haggard.
Hey,
another note, we have
get the list of delegates.
Let me see.
That was hard to get. When I went for a list of committee central members, it was difficult to get an accurate list. They make that difficult as well.
Well, now it's interesting because I did find quite a while ago a list of State Central members, and I emailed something out to every member on the list. 3 years later, I get an email from a State Central member. Hey, just checking my email. Saw you emailed me.
Yeah, 3 years later. Well, that's the Connecticut Republicans right there.
Well,
Well,
Either nobody loves that guy, either nobody loves that dude, or he spent the whole weekend on checking his email. One or the other.
That is Mike. I can't think of his last name, from Bridgeport.
Garrity, Mike Garrett.
No, I don't think it's Garrity, but it and basically all he did was tell me that, why it was a good thing that he voted with the way Proto wanted him to.
Oh, God.
This guy Proto is a disease, man.
Well, it's not just that. I mean, but consider the opposite. If everybody was an independent thinker, it would become kind of chaotic, wouldn't it?
Of course. We don't need
But
everybody
that's
to
the
be
good kind of
independent
chaos. That's the
We don't need
Republican
everybody to be an
government.
independent thinker.
Well,
But we
there has to be a process, right? I mean, so we fight and disagree and argue and call each other names and promise we'll never
And
come back.
then we vote.
We need the truth to come out. We need the truth to come out.
Yeah.
The facts to come out and be prevalent. That's what we need. Because the people that don't think independently will follow the facts as long as they get them.
Yeah.
they
Well,
don't get them.
As much as I hate to think a Soviet got anything right, we need a couple of guys that'll bang their shoes on the table like Khrushchev.
wait a second. If anybody bangs a table, it's Mary Turner. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, she looks like a ringer, man. That lady. I told you. I don't know if have you ever told Al. I spent 45 minutes on the phone with her when I was running against Ben.
Yeah. She
First
must,
half of the conversation, she was lecturing me and saying all this stuff about experience, blah, blah. And then halfway through, I said, "Mary, come off." I said, "I know Ben treats you like shit. I know that you go back and kiss his butt every time he betrays you over and over again. I don't know why." She was like, she couldn't believe I talked to her like that.
there you go.
That or
God,
delegate
she was really nice
syndrome.
to me after that. The last half of the conversation, very nice, very cordial,
Okay.
interesting.
Well, it just, I
She
don't
knows
know.
I'm not going to back down to her.
Yeah, it's such a mess. I mean, just,
It's the duplicity. It's incredible.
it's not, the part that troubles me is why there aren't more people who can't think for themselves to the extent that they can recognize what their center of gravity is when it comes to their ideology, and then be able to let that balance shift a little bit, but they stay right there when it comes to these issues. Nobody seems to be able to do even that.
It's what I call the committee mentality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been
it's-
involved in
it's-
several nonprofits, and one of the things I've noticed is all these nonprofits have subcommittees that handle a special event here, a dinner there.
Yeah.
And you appoint 5 or 6 people or more, or 10 people onto a committee. And
Right.
that committee is 100% driven by the chair, and the chair does the bulk of the work, and everybody else gets thanked at the event.
Okay. Yes.
And I think what we see is in State Central, there's a lot of people that get picked for State Central,
Mm-hmm.
and they let the committee be entirely driven by whoever the chair is.
Okay. Well, this is a little bit like, I'm going to try that, the Pareto principle. Okay. Let's put it this way. 80% of the work gets done by 20% of the people.
Yep.
Well, that's always been true. Just you
Yeah,
ever work
20%
part-time
of
at
the work is done
McDonald's,
by
and you
80%
know
of the
that's true.
Mm-hmm. Right. So therein lies big frustration. Oh God. But anyway,
So anyway, this debate looks like it is going to happen. Obviously, going to take a little more work to make sure it does.
Right.
But you know, one of the biggest problems we have is people make commitments and then they ghost you too. So, but in this situation, the people that we're working with are good people that are going to follow up. So I think it looks good.
all right.
I think so. And frankly, you know what?
What?
Just on the off chance that somebody else doesn't show up, I would be tempted to have cardboard cutouts of all 3 of them
Oh, geez.
ready to
You don't got to
go.
worry about Betsy, but we can make one for Ryan. Yeah, there's a possibility he
No.
will show up.
I'd have one ready just in case.
But if we get it to the point where it's being advertised on television, which
You're right.
they'll have to show up.
And you know what? If nobody shows up, the moderator sits and asks the questions of the 3 cutouts.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. Take it all the way.
Let's go. Let's take the shtick where it needs to go.
I love it. I love
All
it.
right. Well, are you will.
Court's thinking, I already bought enough cardboard here. What the hell you want from me?
Well, when I check the prices, it can get a little expensive.
Sure, yeah.
How much
Yeah.
cardboard do you want?
Well, enough for for life size, but
Mhm.
you're looking at. I mean, just a quick. I mean, I'll find out when I call up some printers, but you're looking at $150 to $200.
Yeah.
One.
Okay, I'll donate at least one of them.
Okay, and now the other. So
We could
that
probably get CTRA to pay for it. Pay
Sorry?
back it. So in light of that, by the way, this has caught the attention of a couple of key people. That one of Aaron Stewart's people actually, who's in. I don't think he's directly involved in her campaign, but he knows her because he keeps advocating for her.
Yeah.
But he's a good dude, and he knows people down in Florida that we have the CTRA right here in Connecticut Republican Assembly. That's the parent company of them is called the National Republican Assembly.
Yeah.
And they're a big deal. And there's another one called the Legislative Objective Assembly, which is supposedly bigger. And I just got off to talking with the chairman of that.
Yeah.
And he wants to look into charter. He's not doing much in New England yet. They're doing it around the country. They have people in Congress on their side apparently.
Yeah.
And they want us to charter with them.
All right. Can we talk about that?
Yes, another
touched
time.
on that. I want to say a little bit more about that. All right.
Okay, good.
The model for your discussion is actually the CTRA itself. Okay.
That's correct.
The person who founded the Connecticut Republican Assembly group was a
Mhm.
gentleman named Mark Anderson.
Okay.
Does anybody here know Mark Anderson?
No, but I know the chairman now, but I don't know Mark Anderson.
Okay. So he went on to become and still is a state representative in Hartford,
Mhm.
works closely with Rob Sampson and others.
Okay.
Okay. But for a couple of years, he was the president, if you will, of this CTRA. He was stuck at about 10 to 15 members.
Okay.
It's not a lot.
No.
And it wasn't until someone else named Ann Minuski took over,
I know, Ian.
and Ann worked very hard and was able to grow the core membership to about 120 to 150 people
That's cool.
off of a base of 10 or 15. And that's kind of where it's been sitting now for a while. But then you have another supposedly 400 or 500 followers, but who aren't necessarily members.
Mm-hmm.
CTRA has some kind of presence in the state, but you can appreciate the work that it took to get to that point
That's correct.
in Connecticut. All right. So now you have this guy who wants to do something that is a little bit similar to the CTRA. And unless he's got some magic formula, he should expect to go through a similar struggle before he will build out an organization of any size in Connecticut.
Yeah, they want to do one in all 6 New England states, I think. And he threw in New York and New Jersey, and I said, dude, let's not bite off more than we can chew.
Yeah.
Let's get New England together, and then so I don't know. I'll keep talking to him, see what happens. He wants us to become the organization that we've built here, Connecticut MAGA Republicans,
Okay. I
be a
mean,
charter member. We'll see.
it's, it like everything else, there's just a huge amount of work involved.
Of course, but isn't this what we talk about, though? We always lament that we have all these different groups that don't come together. So this is a way of bringing them
How's
together.
that make it any, it's just one more group that you're adding to a pile of groups that haven't come together.
Well,
Right.
no,
You know what?
we'd be merging with a national organization that
Here's an interesting idea.
Yes.
Maybe we could spark some group unity.
that's what we're trying to do. That's very difficult to do.
Well, no, here's an idea. Selena
Yeah.
posted that she was looking for a 3-person panel to ask the questions at the debate.
That's right.
Okay, let's get one from CTRA,
Yeah.
one from the CCDL, one from the Family Institute. Ask them if they'd put a person up to be on the panel. Those are your 3 biggest groups, or CT 169 strong.
Well, there's Yankee Institute as well.
Sure, but I mean, we all know who the big players are.
Right.
We want one of the panelists needs to be a regular dude.
Okay,
Or woman.
you know
Yeah.
who you might want to get? Reach out, and I don't know if he'd be willing to do it, but reach out for Frank Ricci.
Okay.
Gee.
There's
know
a woman
him?
named Roxanne McCann, owns a hairdressing salon in Glastonbury.
I've heard of the name. Do you know Frank Ricci?
I've heard of him. I don't really know him.
He was the plaintiff in the Supreme Court case Ricci versus DeStefano.
Okay.
He's a retired battalion chief from New Haven Fire Department.
Okay.
His lawsuit was the one that essentially overturned affirmative action.
Ah, okay. Well, that
he is I believe he's a fellow with the Yankee Institute right now.
Okay. All right.
And he's a former union president of the IAFF.
Oh, wow.
So he's been a union guy. He's a conservative, and he's just a guy. I mean, he writes some good articles.
Yeah. How old would you say he is?
Hey, he probably retired 5-6 years ago. So
okay.
70. I told Selena that when she puts it out there that she should tell people that this isn't going to. I think this choosing these panelists isn't going to be like what we normally do when we're struggling to find people to do it. It's going to be the opposite. There's going to be a lot of people that are going to come forward and want to do it, and we're going to have to. So I told her to tell people like if you're chosen, because this isn't going to be something we're going to have a hard time getting people to do. I think people are going to line up to want to do this. So
I know who I would think of for a moderator, but I don't think he's on Selena's friends list.
Who's that?
Tony D'Angelo.
Okay. Well, I was thinking actually of Jonathan Goldstein.
Yeah, I have his contact information. He and I have talked before.
Yeah,
he's from New York, though, right?
Jonathan? No.
Oh no, I'm thinking of a different guy.
No, but
I know that Mark tomorrow. The Mark Minch, who's the chairman of the CTRA, he and I are going to have a phone conversation. I think he's going to have some input into it too.
Okay.
You know, as to who the moderator is, who the Billy Crystal is. You know,
right. Tony's got a YouTube show, and he's on Lee Elsey all the time, and he's actually the guy who co-hosts for Lee when Lee's on vacation.
Gotcha.
All right. So he's very comfortable as a public speaker.
Yep, I think he'd be a good moderator because he's a non-Republican right-leaning guy. I'm in the chat room with him right now, actually.
You mean he's an independent Republican?
Yes.
Got it.
I'm going to as soon as we get done with the show, I'm going to email Fazio's point of contact. And get him on board.
Yeah, we're going to have to make a list here. We've just been banging.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at. This is a big undertaking. We got about a week to get it all in line. I think,
we can do it.
Of course, we can do it, and we're already on the way. Selena's got going on it already, and
right.
But with that, I am going to wrap it up here because I do have to email her, and I got things to do. And it's been a great show as usual.
Yep.
We're going to do Monday afternoon again. What's your day like Monday? Are we going to record Monday afternoon like usual?
It will be crazy for me. I have to go review everything. We'll figure it out. Probably a noontime show. Yes. If we could do that. Yes.
I'm game.
Okay.
All right. I should be around Monday during the noontime. I've got a doctor's appointment at 9 in the morning.
Okay.
Sorry to hear that.
All right.
All right.
I'm going to try and have my knee fixed.
Okay.